Another common sense thing that comes out of awareness are things about economy, even. Systems of economy. One example is prohibition itself. Like right now here in America, and America has been the main cause worldwide of forcing this issue of moralistic prohibition on certain activities, right? We all know it. Like the prohibition against access to drugs. The prohibition against access to alcohol. Gambling. Prostitution. Why are they illegal? Why the prohibition? What's the rationale there? Well, religion. Old toga and sandals, Dark Ages mythology. But that's it. It has no validity. It's all made up stuff. Its background is to try and say that those things or those activities are immoral. That it was a moralist judgment based on religion. And whose religion? These Dark Age wackos. Repression. They were about repression. Denial. Denial of your humanity. Like sex. It seems you could quite easily say that human beings have a very big interest in sex. And, wait a minute. You're putting a prohibition? No prostitution? So what? It's a business enterprise. It does something that people have a real interest in. Why is it prohibited? All you did with prohibition was create a billion-dollar criminal enterprise. And all you did with prohibition moralism is to make violence, abuse, sex trafficking, all these issues proliferate because you put on the stupidity of prohibition. Moral judgment. So you ruin society. Because people have an interest in sex. That's got to be the 21st century natural, intelligent view. Now we quite appropriately say, look, okay, yeah. There is an interest in sex. We're okay as a culture so that we can live together in community with a overall sense of, some safety and security. It's quite all right to say, look, sex is great, but, you can't have sex with a 10-year-old. That's ridiculous. You can't rape, force sex on somebody who doesn't want to do that. Common sense. But it isn't correct to say, look, you can't be a person who, for a price, will have sex with you. So what? There isn't built into that some issue of violence. It's an exchange. It's an agreement. It's consensual. It's none of your business. They want to have sex, okay, and they don't have a partner, or society says they're not the handsomest guy in the block, all sorts of wackadoodle choice. They just don't want to have a partnership. Well, people like sex. So we give them, quite freely, correctly, the option, well, if you want, you can pay this person and they'll have sex with you. That's okay. Now look what we did. We just pulled the rug out from billions of dollars in criminal violence and abuse and profit. We take over. We run it with clear oversight. We set age access and all that stuff. But it's under a legally implemented business activity. That's 21st century. And that is based upon clear awareness. Because we're not relying on religious boogie-woogie, false, fabricated mythologies. Now we also get rid of all the other stuff under prohibition. We legalize drugs because we've seen the cause, prohibition, we've seen the effect, complete social breakdown, criminal ridiculousness, and multi-billion-dollar money to criminal gangs and cartels. So you just got to say, we're going to run it. We take it over. Clear oversight, transparent oversight, age access restriction, the whole bit. That's okay. But we run it. That's reality. That's intelligence. That's 21st century awareness wisdom. We've seen the cause, prohibition. We've seen the effect, multi-billion-dollar criminality, profit, violence, all related to the prohibition of drugs. Now, aren't there going to be issues? Of course there is. Because what goes right along with all of these, prostitution, gambling, alcohol. Well, see, we did it before with alcohol, and all we ended up with was Al Capone. And gangs and criminal profit. We got rid of it. It became a business enterprise. Well, all of them became an expansion of freedom, of your responsibility. See, responsibility is freedom. Freedom is responsibility, too. Common sense comes with 21st century knowledge. Comes from seeing the disaster of the one system, this prohibition, and knowing, we can't do that anymore, that's stupid, and knowing that the only way through is we run it with legal, transparent oversight. Common sense. 21st century. And the basic thing isn't just the access to. What goes along with that, inherent with that freedom of access, is your responsibility. It gets bigger. It's like the one, you don't drive drunk. Well, gambling, it's up to you. You can go gamble, you're of age and all that stuff, but it's up to you. Do you go penniless? Do you go gamble everything away? Are you an idiot? Same with drugs. Well, we've told you about heroin and cocaine, and we told you that they're highly addictive, and you're getting a little bit of access, legal access, and every time you buy it, you're signing that you are well aware, you've been instructed of what addiction is, and that this drug is addictive, and what that means. You've been instructed, we've told you. Because that goes along with it too. Education. Responsibility. So that then you know. You can't come back and tell us, I didn't know. Oh yeah. Yes, you did. See, it comes with it. Sure, there's legal access, but then there's your responsibility that goes along with it. Well, that's what this whole system is about, of freedom. It's freedom. Yeah, oh yeah. But it's also responsibility. You've got to be responsible. That's the caveat. Now, we don't just take it away because you didn't, the whole system goes back to prohibition just because we will have people who have become alcoholics. We have people who have become gambling addicts. And the root there isn't gambling. It isn't drugs. There's a niche in there that also is the person responsibility. Now, there's little caveats here. We've seen it with this currently, at the time of this recording, something called the opioid epidemic. And what we found is that corporations pumped doctors with this fraudulent advertising saying they had a new drug that'll help pain, and it's called OxyContin, and chemical agents in it that make it an opioid that make it very addictive. But they said in their advertising, they said, but only 1% have addiction out of it. They lied. One example here was this company called Purdue Pharma, and they had to pay over $600 million in fines because of false advertising like that. And so kids were getting treatments, people were getting treatments for pain after surgeries or broken bones or whatnot, and they're getting addicted to OxyContin. So there is that side. Yes, there's the personal responsibility if you're just going to be a user, if you're just going out and you say, now that it's legal, I feel like having a little bit of cocaine tonight. Well, we're going to set the limits, we're going to do all that, but we're also going to make sure that, you've been educated. You know what you're getting into here. You can't come back and tell us, oh, I didn't know. And then there was this sidelong issue of where people were being intentionally misinformed that became the opioid epidemic generated by corporate liars and fraud. But all along the way, we're not going back to prohibition, because we've seen what prohibition guarantees to have happen. Criminal enterprise, suffering, social breakdown, excessive police state tyranny, just excessive excuses police keep coming up with to justify police state tactics of repression and destruction of your rights. So the only way forward is legalization, throwing out the policy itself of prohibition. And that's a spin-off of 21st century intelligence awareness awakening. That's what happens. That's where we're at.